Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. I'm SirAshtown, and we are here live today at Charles Collectible Show's Lorcana 13K. There were over 319 competitors at today's event. It has been an exciting day for Lorcana so far as we have been watching how the Set 7 meta has been developing. This has been a great tournament, and we're glad to show y'all a rematch between Logan from World Class Cards piloting his Ruby Sapphire list against Ezekiel piloting a Amethyst Ruby locations list. This was a lot of fun to announce previously in the tournament. And again, if you missed any of the rounds from today's tournament or yesterday's Swiss rounds, we will have all of those available to you on 20 Lore Pro's YouTube. They are also available on the Twitch VODs for 20 Lore Pro as well as our YouTube. We want to thank everyone for watching over on YouTube, and we also are having this broadcast in Chinese and in Spanish. Really excited to have those offered to you in those languages. So here we are going off into the top 4 with Logan versus Ezekiel. And again, we've had some great announcers here in today's tournament between Loaf, Wonderland, and Jebas. And here are Jebas and Wonderland to take us off.
So we have there's sort of a all right, so we have red, purple, Ruby, Amethyst, if you will, and we're facing against several Ruby Sapphire lists. This is not the same Ruby Amethyst list that you would be thinking about from the last several sets, perhaps. This one has a lot more locations, quite a few new cards in it, and he's kind of on a tear this weekend.
Ooh, I like that the ink token has what appears to be a My Ink for Turn version and a regular one, so you can keep track. I don't know if you noticed, the first card he inked was a fairy ship.
Yes, so I got the pleasure of casting this match, this original one in the Swiss, which ended up in Logan's favor, just barely, on the back of some Cuscos, if I remember correctly.
It's entertaining to see a 6-drop be used to answer a 1-drop, but you do what you have to do.
It was more to take out libraries. Library being a lot larger, with the 8 willpower, and taking it out prior to dealing with the characters that are in there prevents a lot of the draw. So we'll see if that is, now that the matchup is a little bit known, not 100%, but a little bit, and the deck lists are known, whether or not that is something that Logan will be cognizant about. Like, for example, the Scrooge McDuck was very important, given that it just has a lot of strength to be able to actually challenge the locations to keep sort of that critical mass off the board from building up and just ticking 3-4 more every turn.
Educate me as to why we didn't pop our Chernobog. We have a library that let's assume that we had it in hand already. So we could have just kept it back and not used it. Possibly. If we see a coil, then we can. I mean, we do have to be kind of afraid of coil into Sisu to answer it in 1 turn, which could have happened this turn. But to not draw a card off of it shows some sort of respect for the TPO, and I'm kind of interested as to why that respect is there. Was that something that came up in the Swiss to somehow not want that there?
There are so many locations in this list that the way that Ezekiel will win is more on the back of just having a lot of these very powerful, but only gaining 1 lore per turn type of locations, right? if you keep bodies off the board, it makes it a lot harder to challenge them favorably. And I think that there's some concession to just not wanting that chip damage on the locations to make them easier to answer. Because this library is going to be pretty safe in play for a while.
Hey Wonder, hey Jebas, Loaf jumping in here. We got Logan and Ezekiel here on stream. Ezekiel actually took down Amethyst Steel in the round of 8, while Logan took down a red-blue mirror. We did just watch Hector beat Sapphire Steel, and he'll be on the other side of the matchup against another Ruby Sapphire mirror. Jumping in here, it looks like Logan has Cusco in his hand, which could be pretty key in taking out some of these locations.
Yeah, one Cusco already inked last turn, however. So not prioritizing it nearly as much as I would have expected in this matchup. Though it does look like the hand is fairly uninkable. So there may be some inkability issues that is making it a bit more challenging to keep these cards in your hand. The Tipo should help with that, I would think, though.
And Logan was on the play this game. So we saw Ezekiel ink of a fairy ship on turn 1 and play the follower. Then quest with follower and have it traded with a Tipo. So my question is, if we had played the fairy ship instead of the followers, we would have 1, 2 more lore at this point, 1 more lore, and have a fairy ship with 2 damage on it? But they'd also have the Tipo. So is that extra Tipo? It's an interesting line because I don't know which is necessarily better, and that kind of adds a nice element to the gameplay where they both are slightly better depending on what your opponent has, but not enough to be backbreaking, I feel like. Whereas in the Sisu now kind of could stop an all-out aggression against all of them, although it's probably just going to turn sideways. And if it's turning sideways, then that means it diversifies your threats on what needs to be hit.
All right, so Coil comes down. Sisu's just questing in. Library does not need to be challenged in this case since we do have the Cusco in hand. Sisu is a pretty big problem, actually, for Ezekiel a lot of the time. It will likely get cleaned up at some point with a Be Prepared. Generally, this deck, as constructed, is sort of built to put a few locations in play and then sort of control the board with Be Prepared and then clean up with the rest of our characters, right? But in the meantime, that evasive Sisu is just going to get in quite a bit of lore and kind of keep pace with what's going on here. This may end up turning into a bit of a race towards the last few turns. Now, we do have 6 ink. We could, if we wanted, play the Sail double ink and still Cusco this turn. I don't know if we have enough inkables in hand to make that make sense.
But it is a possible line. I think he looked and saw the dime and the Sisu and was like, wait, I can't do this. No, there's literally no other inkables except for the Sail.
Yeah.
I think that Sail has to be inked. I mean, obviously the Cusco, but I think we're all in agreement that this Cusco should probably be played. But we could shift the Sisu, but alas, that doesn't do anything really.
Yeah, this Maui is actually going to do a bit of work here where there's just not a super easy way of dealing with it. So it's going to stymie a bit of the aggression from Logan outside of the evasive Sisu here.
I think there's 0 chances I wouldn't constantly be fiddling with those ink tiles. It would be like a poker chip. I just wouldn't be able to not play with it.
It's likely that the non-fiddling part is just practice, so that they seem usable. Otherwise, they would get a little chaotic on the board, probably.
Yeah, Wonderland, as a player who does use ink replacers as well, how would you rate Ezekiel's inkwell?
I mean, it's tilting. It's tilting. But it's fair. I can't see how he's doing his ink on the side. But I'm assuming it's in a manner that they can easily count it up.
I believe it's just in a pile on the side.
I saw a tweet about, I think, 2 players on stream yesterday forgot to grab an ink token when they inked. So they basically discarded a card for no reason, in a way of speaking. Like, they just forgot to do it. So like there is downsides to using ink tokens. When I first heard about it, I was just like, that seems like so much extra work. This is so silly. Why would you do that?
Like Logan cashed in Tipo for 1 lore here, just to get a little bit of extra damage on the Maui.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to take the Maui down eventually, and now it would trade with the Cusco.
It's also possibly just limiting the ability to sing friends, for example.
Ooh, wee.
Yeah, now this was something interesting we saw in day 1 with Ezekiel's list, where the focus and the attention is on these locations that provide a dynamic way of winning the game, but if that doesn't do the trick, why not just play some rabbits and bounce them back to your hand?
Yeah, you're gonna have to do that at some point.
To me, this looks like the perfect turn to deploy a dime. But I'm kind of greedy with my lucky dimes in these matchups. There's nothing that Ruby and Amethyst has that can interact favorably with a lucky dime. So once it's in, it's in. And for the low cost of 2 ink per turn...
I believe the sale was the last turn's ink.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, but I think they fixed it. Back on the ink token thing, I did not like it at first, but now I love it. Long story short, I'm all about it. I use them. I highly recommend it. There's just so many ways, and any excuse most people can make for a reason for them to be a negative, I find very easy to counter most of the common ones.
I just like using picture sleeves, and then I don't need to use a separate thing. But yes, a lot of the matte, like single color sleeves do make the inkwell very muddled. Especially when they kind of get stacked together. It's hard to see how many cards there are.
Hiram going into the inkwell, it is possible that Shift Sisu can take out either this Fox or Sisu.
Nope. We ain't inking that. No, we want to draw with mouse. We don't want to ink. Nope, we do. Get back in that inkwell.
Drinks the Fox. Shifts the Sisu. Why would the other Sisu... Yeah, okay. Never mind, they figured it out. Not sure why we shifted the Sisu here if we're not... Like, we don't have additional ink.
I would just like to say what just happened on screen there could have been a major issue for Ezekiel. But since he had ink tokens, dropping the card on his ink pile, it was obvious which card it was. Where had that been a pile of ink, it could have easily gotten like on top and then intermingled, or been an effect that Ezekiel could have grabbed it in a way that we couldn't have tell, and it could have been a way for some shiftiness. But like the ink tokens smooth that out.
So we do see the Sisu favorably trade into the younger Sisu.
So Maui has to make a choice on what we're moving here. Opts for the big Sisu, which makes sense. And the Dragonfire that we saw in the Swiss rounds coming down to take out the Kuzco as well. So now, if I thought the previous spot was a good time for Lucky Dime, now seems even better.
Yeah, getting it out of your hand here while not a mana accelerant or an ink accelerant here, it does allow you to have better plays down the line. So you're investing the ink up early. So later on in the game, when Ezekiel does have a busier board, you can just weave in those dime activations.
Yeah, I don't really like Medusing a Diablo. It's not a good feel. But it's also an okayish card because of locations, but he had the Vitalosphere in hand. No matter what Logan really does here, Logan needs to draw a good card off the top of the deck.
Yeah, we know that there was a rabbit in hand for Ezekiel as well. So I'm not sure that I love removing the Diablo, though I think you could be right. It's a concession to understanding that if locations come down, that we need a little bit more pressure on them, possibly. Inks a Fox deploys another Chernobog follower here. This is not
Even
looking
with
great.
tiles we're stacking.
It's not looking great for Ruby over here.
It looks like the draw for turn, though, was Big Sisu.
Ooh,
Okay.
good draw. That was a dang good draw.
Well, it's just like Jebas drew it up. The top of the deck had to be good, and Logan delivered.
And Ruby Sapphire is designed in such a way that the top of the deck is typically very good. Now, do we have a
See
good
your
follow-up?
board wipe and match you my own.
It's just a happy Clam
Yeah, happy
drawn off the top here.
being
So
the
two CCs. Oh, wow.
I believe that we can
Yellow.
get 2 items that we can deploy this turn. I don't know if we care enough about this Popsicle for sure. If we want to play the... Yeah. Because we can actually deploy both of those this turn. The
Ice block kind of makes it that we don't have to ink to use some of our removal.
Yeah,
And
which
we already have
is
one
relevant
coil.
here.
Ooh, Dragon is very good.
I don't know why we wouldn't play the Ice block. There's kind of no reason not to. It's uninkable. Like, it would literally be only Tipo, I guess. Yeah, we'll deploy the Ice block here. And holding the dime with the Happy as a Clam, if it survives, does get to be run out for free.
I mean, we have what? Dragonfire or Be Prep? I mean, there's a world that we Be Prep, but if Be Prepared happens here, that's good for Logan in a way. I mean, it at least means that Ezekiel's not drawing off the broom. And then Logan can just play the dime and pass and still have Dragon to then come down the next turn and answer something. As long as Logan doesn't pick up a shark here, and then as long as Ezekiel doesn't play a bunch of locations in response to the dime play on this turn, or if Logan draws another threat. Like, the issue is if Logan draws a real threat, then Ezekiel could maybe just Be Prep again.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons that I actually liked having the dime in play like several turns earlier, is it's just every time that we're playing these cards, we could just be gaining some lore. And it's possible that we just don't have enough ink to be able to do both. But if we just keep ripping Tamatoas, I suppose that it's kind of moot.
Yeah, and it does appear that we have the backup in hand in case Ezekiel is able to remove this other Tamatoa.
I don't know if I don't think I actually like playing the Vitalosphere here. I think we want to force Ezekiel to, like, hope we don't have it or forget about it. Because of locations, like, we might need that. And if we have it in play, then they just won't play it, right? They'll just ink it instead and gain a form of virtual card advantage.
Sure.
Fanning out the discard there and showing the hand to the camera.
Good hand for Logan here. With another Tamatoa in hand. Now we can get this lucky dime in play. Do we have 10 ink is a good question. Because if we have 10, we can play the dragon, take out the Sisu, take out the location, and then just have a big board with a dime now in play. Which I think I like quite a bit. We don't necessarily need to hit. Yeah, we don't necessarily need to hit the location. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Ezekiel only being at 9 means we're not that worried about them sort of winning on the spot.
But Logan knew that if he wanted to play Dragon and challenge with it, he needed to ink that last turn, so that's what he did. Although he did end up going with the Tamatoa over the Dragon this turn. Didn't think the Sisu was worth it, but still going to take down the location. Gain an extra 2.
I believe just 2 cards in hand, so notably the Sisu is not large enough to take out either of these Tamatoas on its own. And now there's a crab in hand.
Cards.
They are some good ones. Maui does work. Maui and crab can actually take out both. Which is certainly a start. Now the lucky dime is still very scary, especially with Logan already at 12.
This was something that I was chastised for in my top 8. Is my board was slowly going towards my opponent's side. Kind of how Logan's is his discard piles on the other playmat. Half of his items are in play, like on both playmats. But he has a lot more stuff in play, and Ezekiel has very small ink tokens, and that gives extra real estate for both players to use.
I think it's a symptom of Logan's ink being just in the center of the playmat, which eats up a lot of the field for putting characters and items.
Are you inking visions to gain 1 more lore here?
Yep, that's what we're doing.
What would you?
So
I don't think that I would, personally.
maybe if we were in striking distance with just 18. Okay, yeah, we're in striking distance with just dragon.
I didn't realize we went to exactly 18. This means that the dragon is
dragon.
Lethal, yeah.
Yeah, it looks
the dragon is already 2, gets us to 18, and I believe that we have the it's likely that Logan just showed the 2 lore gain in hand, or could have had Ezekiel not just had nothing and passed. So lucky dime against the
Ruby didn't
Amethyst.
even. I don't think Logan showed the card. I think Ezekiel just didn't have an answer to the crab.
I don't think
just conceded to the crab.
The crab, if there's no answer, is already good enough, right? I mean, the dime makes sure that there's not an issue whether they have an answer or not, but pretty safe there.
Yeah, we did see Logan go first there. It'll be interesting to see how the pressure is different with Ezekiel on the play, perhaps getting an early ferry ship off the dock or Forbidden Mountain coming into play.
So notably, there are 2 Dragonfires in Ezekiel's deck,
which spicy,
pretty spicy. There are a total of 10 locations. It's the 4 ferry ships, 4 libraries, and then 2 Forbidden Mountains. And otherwise, it's kind of just characters and be prepareds. do think that there are some runouts where you just dump, 2 or 3 locations in play, and then start doing the typical, Magic Broom and Chernobog's followers with the library. And it's not hard, while Logan is scrambling to deal with all the locations, to just bury them in cards.
If you would have told me that Forbidden Mountain, not the team, the card, was in the top 8 of an event in our year 2025, and was in Amethyst Ruby of all decks, I would have bet a lot of money that you were lying.
Well, we're always welcome to be surprised. It's nice to see that not a lot has to change. I can't imagine that Ezekiel's list is particularly expensive either. Outside of Be Prepared is probably the most expensive card, Genies, and Maui's.
Ruby Amethyst has traditionally been quite the cheap deck if you don't foil it.
It's been the budget deck for sure. It always helps that in set 2, the majority of the deck was in a precon, so it kept the foxes and the rabbits, very reasonable as far as their prices. They could have easily been the opposite of that and just been very expensive.
It could have been Calhoun's for sure.
Yeah. All right, we'll see how it fares on the play. I imagine that will very greatly favor Ruby Amethyst. It has historically been where it excelled the most, getting off the ground early, having much better, 1, 2, 3, 4 runouts than the majority of decks, I would say.
All right, the players have altered, and we are running it back with a Chernobog on 1.
Will this one be traded with a Tipo? At least it's going to get 1 extra quest off, being on the play. Pretty big. Oh my, we must have ink issues.
It doesn't look like we do. Most of the cards in hand appear to be inkable, but it's possible that we just have... I'm not sure. Actually,
I'm assuming that Ezekiel is either one of 2 things. Knows something we do not know, which is very plausible, or is fatigued.
The hand is goat, goat, yesterday.
Yeah.
I see what the plan is. It is goat, goat, goat. But in order to do that, you need other ink. So we still want to deploy the 2 threats this turn, but we also want to just start slamming goats until the game is over. I believe that is the case.
Friends?
And we need
that was already there.
Ink, potentially. I could be totally wrong, but we do have a library here, which is certainly a good turn 3 play. Now, I would suspect...
Just quest with 1, please.
Interesting. Okay.
I play a very defensive game with my 1-drop draws. I like to get greedy with it, but this is fair-ish, but... Sadly, Tipo's just going to eat, and either brawl's happening on the broom, which, isn't a bad play. I mean, it's frustrating that Logan would have to do that on turn 4 after ramping, but it gets rid of 1 lore and gets rid of 2 cards. And now the Tipo eats there.
Yeah. If that's rough, because now the library is not particularly effective here. Obviously, it's still strong because it's going to be in play for a while, but that could have been pretty costly here, actually. Especially now that there's a Vital Sphere down, that threatens that library.
I've definitely been in the position before where I see cards in my hand, I want them, I'm like, these are how I win the game, I need to get it, and I try to do plays to allow me to get to those, and I end up throwing my game away or not going by the game plan I should be, which kind of slows me down and I lose because of it. We're the beat down here and we're playing friends on 3. Not the greatest, but maybe... I mean, Logan doesn't have anything in play. Did have to spend the turn brawling.
Our clock's a little slow.
There's a world. Yeah.
If we had kept that Chernobog's followers back the previous turn so that the Tipo did not have the ability to trade into it, we could have just moved it to the library for 1 and drawn 2 cards off of that rather than paying 3 for the friends, which I think would have been a little stronger, perhaps. Now, obviously, the Tipo would still be in play, so there's some consideration there. However, if the line is just cast friends for 3, that's usually pretty rough because it steals a lot of our tempo.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like we're not really on the play anymore.
You're basically playing friends to hit ink that you need to play a Haymaker, like to make sure you can play your beat prep on curve, or you're playing it after you've kind of developed your aggressive board, right? You're like, oh, it's turn 5, it's turn 4,
we just
my hand's
empty. Another location. This is like the 3rd location that we've inked now. Either 2 or 3. I wonder if there's a world where instead of deploying all those 1-drops that just got taken out, if it was just like play 4 locations, if that would have just been better in this matchup. Now, we're still at 7, so, you know, there is a world where just slamming, it looks like his hand is still more goats, might be fine anyway.
Is Flaversham at the library?
Yes, Flaversham is in the library.
It looks like it.
He's there selling his toys. You know, we all have a thing. His just happens to be toys.
So we do talk about it, and there's quite a bit of discussion on the first few lines with the 1-drops. It is a difficult decision knowing when to pop your 1-drop cantrip characters, when to leave them, because you don't always just pop them in the face of a single Tipo. Like if you had 3 followers there, you don't pop them. You say, fine, I'm going to let Tipo eat 1. I will sacrifice 1 character, 1 lore, 1 card from my hand, quote unquote, to be able to gain multiple lore from my other followers the next few turns.
Sure,
and that's kind of how this deck like beats or just gains its lore. It's a similar strategy to what Amethyst Steel does.
Speaking of popping 1-drops, we did just see Hiram pop this Vitalosphere to draw 2 cards. Somewhat of an interesting choice considering the Vitalosphere opens Logan up for a quick removal of one of these locations, potentially.
I'm concerned that had Ezekiel just played a lot of these locations, that it would have been much more difficult for Logan to actually like favorably deal with any of this stuff. This is just a raw human Sisu with no...
Look at his hand is all on inks, I think. I don't know what that first card is.
Okay.
It's foil, I can't tell, but then it's Medusa, Dime, Sisu. I can't tell what that first card is.
I believe it's a Sisu based on the deck list. It's probably double Sisu, maybe. Like if it was a Maui, it would have just been slammed, right? And it's likely an enchanted.
Screw.
It is a Sisu, yeah.
Well, as we discussed in Game 1, it does appear that both of these players are committed to meeting in the middle of the mat. Everything converging on the library.
Needs to ink here. Puts us at
public
shift
library.
Sisu range at least. So one of these goats is getting taken out. And I believe it was in the library, so should be able to draw a card. Sisu in the library as well.
So are you taking down the fairy ship, or are you drawing him another card, or are you just stacking 3 damage on library, letting him draw another card? Like, he's drawing a card off this goat into the Sisu if he wants. I'd be really worried about...
Yeah, I feel like you have to take out the fairy ship here.
But I guess if you're...
With this hand, I don't know if we have the luxury of dealing with of worrying about a fox. Because next turn, assuming that we get an Inkable, we can still deal with one of them with a follow-up Sisu. Potentially.
Laversham doing some heavy lifting there.
Be prep drawn.
So we go up to 15 off the B prep, leaving a library in play and drawing a card. With
do that.
opponent having 3 cards.
I don't hate that, actually. Just quest, ink, B prep, and then have a library in play with a couple of cards.
Yeah.
Crab and a blank. Well, Jebas, we're not doing that. We're drawing cards and developing our board more, putting some more threats on. Draw the fox, obviously. Too late. Oh, that's not bad. That's the 4th goat.
We had all the goats in hand. That was, I think, what the original plan was. We did have a fox
3
in hand. I almost would have preferred to just crab, fox the crab, and hit the Flaversham, but I suppose with the additional goat, maybe the idea is to try and bounce it. But I would have liked to take this Flaversham off the field.
Not shrinking before inking. We must not have the ink, probably.
Because we could have also, I guess, put the fox into the library too, and then they have no Flaversham, and we just have a fox in play, but the goat is still in hand. Like, the goat's going to be good regardless. Yeah, there's also the possibility of just a goat bounce. We did have enough ink for that, instead of putting it in the library.
Yeah, I do see where Ezekiel is driving this game. With no Vitalosphere and no real heads-up way to get rid of this library, he's just biding his time and using his resources to keep Logan away from getting rid of this library, and Be Prepared is just insurance at this point.
I do believe that if we just quest, bounce the goat, play the goat, that the game is just functionally over. So it'll put us at 18. We'll go to 19, and now there's no way to get the goat off the field, and I don't believe that there are enough items in play or enough ink to gain 18 lore this turn from Logan's side.
That was such a mistake on Ezekiel's side. How do you not ink and move the goat to the library? I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
That's obviously sarcasm for those who didn't understand. We've got the best of jokes here.
Alright, so game did end up going in Ezekiel's favor. Ruby Amethyst on the play. Even if there's a few slightly suboptimal outcomes of a few of the turns, still has enough of an advantage, plenty of cards to carry it out. The library essentially unchecked, able to pick up a couple of extra cards, and there were 4 goats, and one of them even went to the inkwell, and it just didn't matter.
Yeah, Ezekiel pretty much knowing that if he was able to get all of those goats out onto the board, and he would just get to 20 eventually just through the attrition.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like Logan's deck, sort of, especially through the early few turns, has great ways of dealing with locations, especially when there's quite a few of them. I mean, Tipo and Human Sisu are really like the only characters that can come down before like turn 4. Now, an early Scrooge being a 4/4 can certainly offset some of that difference. So like a Tipo or Sail into Scrooge can help mess that plan up a little bit. But we'll have to see how the Ruby Amethyst is able to navigate this on the draw. Certainly makes some of the lines a little different. You know, you're playing on the back foot. Your opponent is going to have characters down that can challenge your 1-drops a little bit more easily. So you kind of have to be more conservative with them, especially with the library lines. You know, we just are kind of 1 ink lower because we're on the draw on all those turns where we would want to play characters while putting them into the library. The library is definitely a tax, even at just 1 per activation to move. It definitely still does have a cost.
Yeah, here at the top 4 of the Charlie's Collectibles 13K this weekend, neither player able to break the serve yet. We'll see if Ezekiel and his Ruby Amethyst locations build has the tools to do it.
It's like a 5-card altar for Ezekiel here. I would expect the big Sisu as an uninkable to go back into the deck, maybe keeping the human Sisu, though it is interesting to potentially keep the shift line. I think it's a little too risky to keep really expensive uninkables in your hand, since there's just more expensive uninkables in the deck. It is possible just to draw into even more of them and be kind of stuck. Yeah, just sending back basically all of the uninkables, drawing a new hand with 4 additional cards. So I did see in Ezekiel's altar that we picked up quite a few 1-drops off of the 5 cards that were sent back, so that should hopefully provide a pretty aggressive start. It looks like there's at least a 1, 2, 3 in hand, so I would imagine that those are going to get rolled out. Looks like 2 popsicles, a brawl. Pretty modest hands from both players.
Tipo coming off the draw of that popsicle, just like we drew it up.
Certainly where we want to be on turn 2. Now, if there's a sail, I would expect the sail to get played so that the second popsicle can come down instead. Because the way that this hand is sort of shaped up, these Flavershams are going to need to do some heavy lifting to get us into the mid-game.
Oh, we see at least 1 fairy ship.
So does Ink the Tipo looking to play the sail. So sees essentially the same line here. And that's the Great Stone Dragon getting sent away. Now we do have the double popsicle, so our Flavershams are in a good position here to set up for that Sisu later. It's
Logan is going to be feeling really foolish if he draws a popsicle.
Draws a card here immediately with the broom.
If he drew a popsicle, he could have played the Great Stone and the popsicle, and then played Scrooge for free.
True.
But it's kind of, I mostly jest as he has 2 in play. I don't think he's going to be going for that.
Debating on what to ink here, kind of a tough choice. I would think the coil is the most obvious, but does decide to play the Scrooge with the intention. I think
it just one-shots the location.
Yeah, I think it's just to have bodies. It is one of the largest characters in the deck, and certainly, like, those Flavershams will be good later. Like, they're not. Your items aren't going anywhere against this color combo, and like you're going to be able to have this 4/4. I almost like not sacrificing the Chernobog's followers here. The Scrooge McDuck almost has to go into this ship, and unless we desperately need that card, I think we could have just left it in play. But maybe I'm greedy.
Being greedy's fun. Another location.
It's a library.
Looks a lot less amazing when there is a 4/4 across the board.
Now there's a choice to make with this Scrooge. You can either crack into the library and just accept that they get 1 extra lore, which then makes the library a little bit more softened up for the following turn, or just take out the ferry ship directly. I don't think either one of them is necessarily massively better than the other. The only concern, I guess, would be if they 1-drop into Fox and then take out your McDuck. Then you're in a tough spot because now you just have some damage on them.
We do choose to just take out the ferry ship in 1 swing.
Yeah, I think this is probably better, given that we have 2 Kuzcos in the deck somewhere. You know, we don't know where they are just yet, but we have these Flavershams to start drawing some cards, and Kuzco does take out the libraries a little bit more cleanly. And now if the whole turn is just play a 1-drop, play a Fox, trade with the Scrooge, like that doesn't really develop the board very much. So it doesn't end up being that big of an issue, I think, for Logan's from Logan's perspective, because there's just not that much more on the board. Another hard cast, Friends on the other side, is just.
I really expected to see a Maui on that turn.
I couldn't. That was only the 4-ink turn.
Wait. Okay. Man, Logan over there with all the ink just throwing me off. I thought we were farther ahead than we were.
No, that was why it was possible to do the other line, because the only real out to take out the Scrooge was something involving Fox. But that would have literally been a full turn worth of dealing just with Scrooge, and then it leaves them with almost nothing left in play.
I mean, we are at least drawing cards. So Ezekiel just has to hope Logan doesn't have a way to win quickly, and is probably going to be really happy to see this crab hit the inkwell, which is maybe why Logan is contemplating not inking it.
Honestly, for my money here, I think I either Medusa the broom just to put another 4/4 on the field, or potentially just Sisu it and then Visions, which looks like what we're opting for. Yeah, so we Visions and then probably going to make that play.
Yeah, without having the coil, we probably want to keep the Medusa to be able to answer something pesky, such as like a rabbit. If we don't have the brawl, that way we can answer it. Although it does look like brawl's on the table if we want it.
I would pick up a popsicle here, I think, for sure. It makes the follow-up. Well, we do have 2 popsicles in the Spanish already.
Did we have a crab?
There's crabs to be found. We have the other crab. We have the big one.
Choices.
It is a pretty tough choice here, because if we ink, we can play the popsicle this turn, and it allows us to still Sisu. Did not have to reveal that, which just likely means we're going to play it anyway, so it kind of doesn't matter. So we play it, draw a card. Now there's a happy as a clam. Never didn't have it. Alright, so we're going to ink. I don't think I would ink the Flaversham, but like we have plenty of cards in hand. Yeah. Do this, take that out. This sets us up pretty well, I think, to still be able to take out the library regardless of losing anything.
Did Ezekiel not move his broom to the library, or did he just not exert his last ink to play the broom? Yeah, because he friends and then played broom. Okay. Yeah. He just didn't exert it. That's fine.
Yeah. Here's Maui taking out the Scrooge. Now, in theory, a Shift Sisu or even just a Vitalosphere can be used to take out this library. I don't even hate the idea of, assuming that we have a Vitalosphere, of course, which doesn't look like we do.
I think we have a Vitalosphere, and oh nope, it's just 3 Sisus.
It's a lot of Sisus, yeah. So I guess we just have to use Flaversham to take out the Maui then.
So that's every Sisu in hand. And we kept the extra Flaversham, so we have more ways to draw more cards if we want it.
Now
maybe one of the things was a Brawl.
Could be a Brawl, yeah. And a Dragon. So going up to 6, Dragonfire. Okay. The Dragonfire, very clean answer here to the Sisu. But it's empty board versus, Ruby Sapphire control. Happy as a Clam can come down, drop a couple Popsicles, we could play a Flaversham. There are a lot of answers in both decks for some of this stuff, but I do feel like Logan, at this stage of the game, is favored. I would consider Ezekiel's deck to be a little lower to the ground, given that there's a lot of 1-drops, cheaper locations, and unless Ezekiel navigates this game to a spot where, it's maybe B-Prep plus a couple of locations in the same turn, it is going to be very difficult to win from this spot, I would say.
Yeah, that last turn very much felt like Logan getting over the mountain, the Forbidden Mountain, if you will. He doesn't really have much worry of things sprawling out onto the board and overwhelming him. Very much off the back of that early Scrooge.
Yeah, the 4/4 body is just very necessary to be able to deal with these locations. And it's, especially out of Ruby Sapphire, just one of the biggest things that they've had in a while to be able to actually just interact with some of these cards.
You know that Logan's winning the game based on how far his discard pile is on Ezekiel's playmat.
Yes, if it fully covers up the CCS on the other side, I think that Ezekiel just has to concede. I think that's the rule. Tambatoa in the Forbidden Mountain.
That is the matchup that we are watching, both literally right now and overall. Genie drawing a card, but most likely not long for this world.
Debating on what we want to do here with our Embarrassment of Riches.
Yeah,
Good Ink
Genie just...
Ink Tipo Dragon? Probably what I would guess.
Yeah, it looks like Genie just got his freedom and Logan's going to put him right back into the lamp. He's just deciding how.
Could also accept just big Sisu to get some pressure, then just challenge the location. Oh no, that one has 6 willpower, so that doesn't really help a ton. It's probably just Dragon and Quest. Gaining 1 lore really doesn't do anything here. Opts to just put a little bit of damage on it. I think that's okay as well. Not a lot of cards in hand for Ezekiel here. Does look like there's a Be Prepared on board.
Yeah, Logan very much playing this game with stakes in mind, I feel. It's top 4, it's game 3. Even the slightest chance that this mountain gets out of hand is worth the 4 damage, it appears.
We have found a Vitalosphere. So I suspect that this Vitalosphere is going to be used in combination with the Happy as a Clam to Okay. We decide to go with the other crab that only gets back 1.
I believe he exerted 6 ink. Possibly playing just the wrong.
He does only get 1 popsicle. There we go. Okay. He might just have grabbed the wrong Tomato in hand. Does have both. Players corrected it. Not a big deal. Can still make the play of Vital Sphere and take out the location if he wants. Just has to ink. I suspect that the other play would have been more favorable for Logan, given that now there's a choice of these inkables. Likely it's going to have to be this popsicle, which does feel kind of bad. Could be the dragon. We have plenty of removal otherwise. To do this, Vital Sphere, crack in. Now the Happy as a Clam can still get the Vital Sphere back. I would say that this Sisu is likely going to slam the door on this game in the following turn. So there's the Dragon Fire, but I think it's a little slow, perhaps. All right, now just trying to figure out what choices to make to close out this game here. I don't believe that we have a lucky dime yet. But we can use this Tamatoa to either take out the location or just quest for a bit. It depends on if we want to use the Sisu to take out this genie or not. I think on whether or not you leverage the Tamatoa to take out the location. Start with a popsicle. I think that's a good choice.
Yeah, Logan navigating this turn. It's very much his game to lose at this point. If he's able to keep his opponent down on lore, he'll eventually just have a massive swing here in the next couple of turns.
So I like this because we now have the Vital Sphere back. We can actually leverage the Vital Sphere plus the Sisu to take out the location, I believe, if we ink. Yes. So we still get to quest with the crab, gain our 3, and make the same play. So there is a B prep, I believe, was drawn. But again, we're sort of in this spot where Logan has a lot of cards in hand, and there's just no pressure on the board. So it doesn't particularly matter that much that the Be Prepared happens, right? All it's doing is resetting the board back to the spot where Logan gets to draw several cards, you know, with the Tamatoas. Does have to be cautious not to massively overcommit resources, but I would suspect that the Happy as a Clam is going to come down this time, get back Popsicle Vital Sphere again to take out this Forbidden Mountain with the Tamatoa, and then quest for 3. We have enough ink, we can also draw 2 cards. Sure.
And
I mean, the dime and a crab.
To do.
Yeah. Well, with the dime and the crab, now it's clinical at this point, I think. Yeah, sphere, do the sphere, get the location. Vital Sphere been doing a lot of heavy lifting this round. For sure.
It's quite good.
All right, here's the B prep that we knew about, but I feel like there's still plenty of threats to deploy for Logan here. Even if the play is just Lucky Dime pass, I think that is already too much for just the one card in hand for Ezekiel here. But honestly, you can just send out the additional copy of Clam. I would probably just take double Popsicle here. I don't know if you necessarily are that worried about locations that you need a Vital Sphere. Unless it's still in our hand for some reason. But did we have to ink it? No, it's still in our hand. I see. That makes sense. So possibly a small error would have had to sacrifice the Popsicle if that was what he had wanted to pick up, but the Vital Sphere is also acceptable here.
Yeah, I think really it's just backup just in case. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of the crabs.
All right, visions. I think just digging for any individual big threat, like the Sisu is probably fine to pick up here since we've got the Lucky Dime. Like, really, all you want is something I think that you can hit with Dime. But making sure that in case there's just many answers in a row that can stop all of your threats, that you still have enough of them is probably correct.
Yeah, without having a dime there to be able to gain lore off of each big threat is a little irritating for Logan, but he has so many Sisus in hand and the dime and Ezekiel at such a low lore that a lot of things are going to have to happen for him to feel too pressured, because right now Ezekiel is having to play the control, and that's not where you want to be.
Playing control is fine if you have 2 or 3 locations in play, but with the totally empty board, playing control just isn't really enough if you're not drawing extra cards. You'll just never be able to play enough answers if your opponent is also drawing cards on top of it. And every time that one of these Happy as a Clams has come down, that's been several cards, right? It's +2 cards of its Popsicles. You know, the Vital Sphere functionally is an extra card advantage-wise because they've been used to take out locations, you know.
Looks like...
So it sort of just buries them.
Looks like Goat Pass was the play for Ezekiel, which Logan is going to respond with Dime for free off the Tamatoa quest.
Free Dime. Tap the Dime to gain 2 extra. There you go. Would you pick up another Clam? Sure, why not? Yeah,
number
send
4,
it in.
Right?
Yeah, number 4. Put 4 of them in the deck for a reason. Rip 2 more Popsicles. Probably put both the Popsicles into play.
Play Scrooge.
Play all 3 Popsicles. Play every Popsicle. Tap 4 Popsicles to play a Scrooge. What an embarrassment of riches. Didn't even want to play the last Popsicle to play the Scrooge. The audacity.
How many cards are left in his deck?
Enough.
10 maybe?
I don't believe that we've quite entered the stage of the game where you choose not to draw with Popsicles when you replay them. But we're probably getting there pretty soon.
We have reached the point in the game where Logan has so much ink, he doesn't even know how to handle it himself.
Yeah, I think if at any point we find, the big Tamatoa, the game is probably just over immediately because there's plenty of items in play for it. And I think even without that, the game is...
Ezekiel.
Pretty lost, I would say.
Ready his board.
Yeah, Popsicles for everybody.
I prefer to do stacks of like 3. And when I say stacks, you can tell it's not like a single stack. It's like 3 slightly off-centered of each other. So So you can tell that there's 3 of them there, but it does take up far less space, and it's easy for grabbing it. I think that's like a magic thing, though, from like separating your basics and such.
Draw a card with Popsicle. Make the Tipo, shrink the goat.
What are we putting into play this time?
I don't know if there's any items. There is a quill in there. I don't even know if we care.
There's a lot of items. We just don't care.
All right, we'll play a
There's
Sisu.
Too, I think.
That'll take out the goat.
Able to go to 18 off this.
Yeah, this game is very over. Yeah, decides
like, no, I don't need to put an item into play.
This doesn't matter.
Ezekiel is like, do you want the item? Logan's like, nah.
Do you want more? Can I help you add more things to the board? Do you have any more popsicles perhaps to play? I believe that we had a Sisu in hand still, which obviously with the dime would have closed it out. I think the only card that Ezekiel draws there that even can answer the board is another Be Prepared, and I don't really feel that answers it. That's just sort of delaying the inevitable. So, a pretty rough start from Ezekiel in a couple of those games. Anytime that you're paying 3 just to draw 2 cards with friends on the other side is really pretty rough, right? You ideally either want to sing that or you use it on a turn where you've already essentially deployed all of your threats and you're just looking to recoup your hand more so than just drawing 2 different cards.
Yeah, it is worth noting that both of Ezekiel's loss this weekend are from Logan, so perhaps some of the interesting routes and gameplay taken by Ezekiel were from that first match. But congratulations to both these players. Ezekiel making top 4 here. Logan heading into the finals, which Wonderland, Jebas, we're going to go to a short break and we will be back with the finals.